I mean, I don't know how we're going to top last week, but we're certainly going to spice it try. No, there's nothing as good this week. Just go watch last week's again, I guess. Hello, bad boys, wicked women, butter princesses, and everyone in between. Today, just like every other Monday, this is Crowdfunding Countdown, where we take a look at every single board game campaign finishing up this week. The board game campaign space is only getting larger and larger, and so these videos will only get smaller and smaller and more specific until we're just talking about one game, and that's it. I think, probably, that's a good way to go. You may notice, eagle-eyed viewers may notice that I'm not in my regular setup. I thought, my regular studio needed a little bit more gray in it. I always find gray is a very nice color, really represents my usual state of mind, just sadness. But that doesn't mean the board game campaigns stop, and that doesn't mean I am going to stop covering them, even if I am not in my home. So let's get into the week, but first off, before anything, we have to thank our newest patrons. We have a new patron shout out. Thanks so much, Steve, DJ, and somebody by the name of Quackalope? Quackalope. So maybe West, Devin, Shira, or Mr. Raven himself. Thank you for jumping on board and supporting the channel. But to be fair, Steve and DJ are the real heroes here. Let's be clear. It's a little rude how you're trying to overshadow them. Quackalope? Just change the name to Shira's channel and be done with it. No, seriously, thank you, and thank you to all my patrons who consistently support the channel and help me justify all the time that I spend in these videos. Your support really helps out a lot. Plus you get access to our cool, fun Discord, which is cool and fun. I'm not hyping it up. It is both of those things. Often people say, oh, this is going to be interesting, and then they show you a picture of their ugly-looking baby, and you have to say, oh, that baby's definitely a baby. Wow, great job. Your baby looks like every other baby imaginable, only your baby's wearing a tea cozy as a hat. Can you tell I went to family functions recently? So rude. No, this is actually cool and fun, because all we do is talk about board games, and more importantly, decide which ones get burned. But that's neither here nor there. We have a bunch of games to cover this week, and let's get right into them, starting off with a campaign for a new deck of Hanafuda cards. The YouTube channel Thinker Themer put me onto Hanafuda cards, and when I say that they put me onto them, it's that they mentioned them in one video that I watched, and then I proceeded to never care about them or look into them until now. And I actually should have talked about this one last week, but I looked at the campaign and I went, this is kind of confusing. Is it just a deck of cards? It seems like its own unique game, but I also know that there are multiple sets of these cards that you can play different games with, and I think they're just marketing them as you can play this new game with these Hanafuda cards, but it's just a standard deck of cards that's pretty common, and you can just play different games with them like you can with a deck of cards. But then it looked all unique and with different pathways, and I was confused, and so I left it till this week, because I thought, of course, Chris, why spend the time to look into it last week when you had more time? Leave it for a week where you have less. That's future Chris's problem. As if I didn't have enough reasons to hate myself. Past Chris is always able to provide more. But Hanafuda are traditional Japanese playing cards. That's what they are, but they employ aesthetics instead of suits. So instead of clubs, hearts, spades, and diamonds, you're going to have seasons and different, snowscapes or whatever it is. You're going to have brights, seeds, scrolls, and dregs, which have different numbers, and you're going to have all these different months or seasons that are throughout the deck. And so they're pushing this one forward, and they're saying you can play the game Koi Koi, which I assumed I didn't need to learn how to play. I assumed I would know how to do it intrinsically, because my regular coquettish self is constantly doing that every day. But this one game that they're kind of promoting, you can play Koi Koi, which I'm pretty sure you can play with any Hanafuda deck, not just this one, which has artwork by Vincent Dutrait. Somebody mentioned that recently, that their favorite artist was Vincent Dutrait, and lucky for you, here's some artwork for you. You better get him, or you're a liar. But the Koi Koi is pretty simple. You deal out 8 cards to each player, and then 8 cards to the table. And before looking at your cards, you can look at the table and be like, oh, that's going to be a better hand. I'm taking that. And then you all look at your cards and you say, have I won or have I lost? Because there are conditions where you can have a quick victory or an immediate loss. And you play 12 games, and the first person to win, the majority of those games, or the first person to win 12 games, one of them, doesn't matter, ends up being the winner. But basically you're making sets. You're going to play a card, and if it matches up with sets from the middle area, you get to take those and put them onto your sets, and that's it. So it's just like pretty gin rummy, basically. So the question is, do you like gin rummy with pretty art? Not for $30 US, you don't. Or maybe you do. People collect these sorts of things. I mean, the art seems gorgeous, but other than that, I don't personally have that much interest in it. Let me know if you're a Hanafuda expert and why you like them or what games you can play with them. Honestly, the only games that I ever play with my Hanafuda is just shove it right in my mouth. Anyway, that finishes Tuesday at 12 a.m., aka tonight at midnight. Next up we have Amun Re, which is by the famed designer Amun Re. And this is the 20th anniversary edition of a game that is currently ranked 425th on Board Game Geek. It's in the top 500 of all games. That's pretty good. I mean, that also means if your collection is smaller than 425 games, you don't need it, because you obviously start at number 1, and that's how any sensible person would grow their collection. But if you haven't heard of it, now's your chance to pick up a copy. And the main draw of this new campaign, or at least they're telling you it's the main draw, it's a quote from Rado at the top of the page, so you assume that it's your main draw as well, is that you can now play this game with 2 players. It used to only be 3 to 5 players, but now it's 2 to 5 players. Anyway, there are 3 mini expansions in this game. Take that, Moonrakers, which we'll talk about after covering the main game. But really, there's only that 1 expansion in the retail box, and the other 2 are part of the deluxe version and are also GameFound exclusives, which means that Alley Cat will sell them whenever they want at special events. That's what they say. Yes, these GameFound exclusives mean that we can sell them at conventions. So, not really a GameFound exclusive, is it? Not that I mind. I like when that happens. I think specific platform exclusives are silly. But it's still a generous usage of the term. Although, to be fair, everybody does this. And because they are exclusive and you won't be able to get them in other channels, it definitely means that they are integral to the experience of this 20-year-old game, that they're so important to the gameplay that you can only get them now and never will be able to get them again. But at least one of them has minis, right? Anyway, Amun Re is a auction game. You're going to bid on provinces that you want. You don't want to be outbid, or maybe you do. Maybe you're trying to drive the province up. And the bids are predetermined. It's 0, 1, 3, 6, 10, 15, 21 in some take on the Fibonacci sequence. And basically each province will give you a special bonus that you can do something extra in that province, and then you're going to try to build pyramids in these provinces, and you'll score the pyramids, you'll score the provinces that have pyramids, everyone will get wiped from the board, and then you get to bid on the provinces again, but the pyramids are still there. So it's this escalating bidding where the provinces get more and more important as the game goes on. And that's the basic structure. You're going to auction off these provinces, you're going to go to the market in an attempt to build these pyramids, you're going to give gold to the gods, because it's definitely the god who wants you to spend all that gold, and not the priest who's just hungry for gold, and are just saying it's for the gods, because, you know, they want to take all your gold. No, because it actually must be for the gods, because depending on how much you give, it has a direct result on how much you get back. Just like a room and board Patreon. Anyway, it's a short rulebook. It's not on the campaign page, which is ludicrous to me, but it's a 20-year-old game, so you can find it fairly easily if you want to look for it. It's just so stupid. When there is a rulebook that exists, just put it on there. Or maybe I missed it. I hope I missed it. Let me know if I missed it. I didn't miss it. And the expansion content is also simple. For the 2-player variant, basically you're going to get to bid on 2 different provinces, and you're going to get the rewards from one of the provinces, and you're going to get to put people on the other province. That's the gist of it. Then the mini expansion, you've got extra little god statues, and they're going to be built in specific provinces, and they will have an additional effect on that province. But again, when you're all wiped off from a flood or a mass murder, I don't know, you will have a chance to get into those specific provinces that give you more stuff. And then there's also an afterlife expansion where you can plan for your imminent demise and remind yourself of your own mortality by building a tomb to yourself. And you get points depending on how, long it is versus the instant bonuses of building it higher. It's $55 US, $70 Canadian for the base game, and that doesn't include the 2 expansions of the gods and the afterlife. And so therefore, nobody cares about, because it's old. We need the £59, $72 US, $90 Canadian version with those extra expansions, which again are so integral that they're never going to be sold again. But you know what? This art is by Vincent Dutrait, you gotta get it. If you're a fan, you gotta get it. Really, the only reason I'm bringing it up. Kind of feels a bit like deja vu. Although, to be fair, shipping's reasonable. They're subsidizing a bit, or at least that's what they say, so it's 12 to 16 bucks US. Still probably too much for a 20-year-old game, but it's well rated, so you're getting something that's already been vetted, which is fair. If you're interested in that one, that finishes July 27th at 6 p.m. And our next one, just quickly, I want to talk about it. It's called Dice Monsters. And I want to talk about it because the art is, again, by Vincent Dutrait. No, it's not. But I am only talking about it quickly because they don't have a rule book. They are funded, even if it's a small number of backers and it's a small funding goal. And it's just incredible to me that this one actually funded with the campaign page in the state that it is. They just have like a rough outline. And that's it. You're going to roll dice to capture monsters. And you're going to get more and more dice as the game goes on, and then roll more. And I think on every 3 and up, it looks like you get to beat a monster. So if you roll 14 threes, then you win this legendary monster and you win the game. So you're just like amassing more and more dice as the game goes on. And honestly, the only reason I'm talking about it is because it kind of reminds me of a family-style silver coin monster fighting. And that's not a bad thing. But okay, that's actually also not the reason I wanted to bring it up. The reason I wanted to bring it up is because I would love a reason to organically bring up something. And I'm sure there's a better reason, but I don't care to find it. But maybe you could have yourself a 2-player head-to-head dungeon dice battle.
So it's just like Duel Monsters.
Well, what makes this one different?
My game is nothing like Duel Monsters. Prove it then. My game uses dice.
We're moving on. It was 35 bucks US with no rulebook, no shipping information. I mean, hey, I'm glad that it's funded, but like, you could have done so much better, Dice Monsters. You're lucky I just like that quote. And speaking of 2-player head-to-head card games, next up we have Splintered Lands, which is basically Legendary Aliens, the deck building game, meets a 2-player head-to-head.
So it's just like Duel Monsters.
Yeah. But you only draw 5 cards, not 6, even though you start with 11 cards in your base deck. And this is so weird to me, that you start with an extra card, a base card that's obviously gonna suck. You're only gonna see 10 cards, so it's not like the combinations are even that different. But I guess giving a less predictable second hand is kind of an interesting thing. Just from a deck building, starting deck standpoint, this is already intriguing for just doing something different. Anyway, in the base game, you will mix in 3 factions out of 4. You get 4 in the base game. And that will basically comprise your market. But in order to even buy cards from the market, like a standard deck builder, first you have to scour the dunes. And it basically just means you have to pay money to flip them over. That's it. Then you can try to get more of the same faction and target your opponent's base. And if you destroy the base, you win. But the face-down market always moves similarly to how the aliens in Alien Legendary move, in that they're creeping along and then, well, in this case, they get discarded, and the aliens, they go and they bite your face off, which isn't great. So if a dueling card game with that sort of deck building and protecting your base style of game interests you, or if you want to honor the fallen creator of Duel Monsters, and I don't mean Maximilian Pegasus. Kaiba boy. I can't do it. I thought I could do it. It's the only reason I'm referencing him. I mean Kazuki Takahashi. He created Duel Monsters. He created Yu-Gi-Oh! He passed away actually what would have been for our 50th episode, but I didn't want to bring everybody down by letting them know. Especially because, that episode, well, it was all about me. And then last episode, I was going to put a homage to him after Spicify, another dueling card game in its own right, but I'm not that heartless. But yeah, it's very sad. He passed away suddenly. He drowned. So if that's your reason for getting this game, well, who's going to argue against that? Although, why you're not just purchasing Yu-Gi-Oh! Stuff and actually, supporting his creation, we won't look into it that much. Seems like you're just looking for an excuse. Anyway, this one's 35 bucks US, $44 Canadian, plus $15 shipping to the US, $25 shipping to get to Canada, making it like $77 Canadian to get to my door. In that case, again, probably not worth it for me. But it's got some interesting takes to it. It's got some interesting elements. So if you're interested in that, check it out. That's Thursday, July 28th at 2 p.m. Next up, we have Snapship Tactics, and I really don't want to go off the rails here, but I got to do something to get us out of our doldrums, so here we go! Why not pick on the most overpriced piece of trash I've ever seen? Okay, maybe calling it trash is a little bit harsh, but you're just gluing a bunch of junk together. You're not actually gluing, you're snapping them, hence the title. And you're getting yourself a fun flying plane. It's Lego the board game, without Lego. where each player's ship is $50 US for a very basic tactical skirmish game. You'll move around using measurement movement, roll some dice, and hope you get some critical hits. I understand the appeal of this game. I understand the appeal of building these ships and having the different parts of the ships, and actually the concept of it is really cool. The different elements that you add onto your ships allow you to roll different dice and do different things, and that's awesome. But what particularly irks me about this campaign is that a lot of Kickstarter campaigns or crowdfunding campaigns use the component count to draw you in and make you feel like you're getting a lot of stuff because the numbers are so big. So in this one you have 40 building pieces, but you only really have 11 that matter because it's 11 that you have individual cards, and it's out of these 11 cards you're going to pick like 5 or 6 of these cards to create your ship. So the variability that it is saying it's going to give you doesn't seem like a lot of variability, and especially when you actually look at the cards and see the differences of them. Oh, this wing lets me roll a blue dice, and this wing lets me roll 2 purple dice. Those are examples. I didn't pay that much attention to it because it's not worth my time or yours. That's harsh. I think the interesting part about a lot of these games is that you have such a wide breadth of things to choose from to create your squad, and in this one, you don't. I mean, really, this one you're just looking for a game that lets you pick up your little piece and go pew pew pew. Lets you build some Legos and spend $100 US on 2 ships. If you're looking for that, well, then this is the game for you. It's a toy line, right? It's not a board game first, it's a toy first. Plus, it's also smack dab in the middle of a genre which has 0 interest or appeal to me. So, I'm gonna stop talking about it. After this last point, the best ship is the one that you create. Well, this is patently false. Snapships. I don't know why you're trying to give children dreams that cannot be achieved. In elementary school, when we had to make a ship fly off the ground, relax, it was through pumping air. I didn't work on actual NASA spaceships in elementary school. I did that in daycare because NASA are little babies. Flat Earth! Anyway, for that assignment, the best ship was not one that we created. The best ship was brought in by Martin because his dad has a 4-car garage. That's it. I do have to commend them that there is an option to purchase the additional cards. Just the cards. You don't have to purchase the additional ships of the extra sets. You can just say, yeah, I'll spend $10 instead of $40 and get the set of cards. So if you want more of that mixing and matching without the price cost, you can just keep your main 2 ships and say, oh, my ship has this wing on it now, and nobody would ever know. That is an option, and that's a great option. Another great option is just taking pictures of them and printing them out for yourself and saying, yeah, you got $100 of my money, and that's fine enough as it is. So I do think it's cool that you did do that, Snapships. I take everything I said back, and you're officially my favorite campaign of the week. So if you're interested in that one, check it out. That finishes July 28th at 4 p.m. Now, next up we have a game called Mini Express, and you know anything with the name Mini in the title is going to pique my interest because I will obviously assume that it is cheap and affordable, like if you were to run into me working a corner on the street. And this one's not too bad. It's kind of like Age of Steam Light. And yeah, I'm just saying that for the name recognition, so you stick around for the rest of this segment, and I hook you once more back into the YouTube. But at least I'm upfront about it. Got 'em! But instead of Age of Steam, they are doing something that the train business has only dreamt of. And they've done away with money entirely. There are only shares. See, that way you can focus on the fun part of building trains. And that is not paying for your labor. Ooh. Yikes, that got dark quickly. Turn it around. Look, there's the designer. You know this is a man who designs train games. You can put your faith and trust in this lovely conductor of fun. I could not think of any other profession for that man. Whew, saved it. We saved not having to talk about the horrible slavery that was behind many of the great railroads that still exist today. Anyway, the game itself is very simple, as these little GIFs will explain. You can take trains and build them on the board connecting 2 cities, and then moving up the track for the goods that are in demand. Basically, the goods of the city that you just connected to. Or you could buy shares, which moves you down the track of specific railroads, but now you have shares, so of course that's better. And depending how you're ranked on the tracks at the end, you'll get more or less points for the shares that you own. But this is a really important factor to it because that kind of means you have to try in all of the aspects. If you let just someone run away with the Purple Railroad, for example, and they just keep on getting Purple Railroad shares, and they're just ahead of everyone else into first place, they're going to get a whole bunch more points than if that was sorely sought out. So I think it's kind of a neat push and pull that they have here. And so basically this is a reprint of the base game, and they're also offering a number of map packs. Map Pack 1 and Map Pack 2. The first one having Taiwan and the UK, and number 2, which they don't really talk about at all in their main video, which is Japan and Spain. And I don't know why they're not talking about it, because the Japan board was designed by acclaimed designer Hisashi Hayashi, who designed the best train game, Trains. Anyways, 20 bucks for each map pack, 45 bucks US for the base game. So it's okay, but the shipping is really bad unless you're getting everything. Then it kind of feels a little bit easier to swallow. It's like 19 bucks for one map pack or 26 bucks for everything together. And I assume the only reason for that is because the boxes are basically the same size. Anyway, if you are interested in that, check it out. That's July 28th at 11:59 p.m. Let's move it along. Enough of the shenanigans, except for this one, which is basically all shenanigans. We have next a game called Goodnight, Goodbye, where here you play as a girl who just wants to be left alone. Kinda like my ex-wife. But according to the campaign, Goodnight, Goodbye is a very simple bluffing game where you use 3 cards to lie and cheat your way to victory. But then they say, and this is the best part, if lying isn't your thing, don't worry, you can still tell the truth and win. Whether you're a liar or not, please feel free to have fun and play this game. I know it's the translation, but honestly, I've never felt more seen. What a wonderfully inclusive game. Liars can have fun too. It's like my ex-wife. And it's also important to know that the premise of the game, you have many friends, but today you just want to be alone. And in fact, your friends, they're chasing you. They just want to hang out with you. I get it. You just all love me so much. Clearly, this is a fantasy world. But it's very simple, and honestly, probably too simple. You place down a card and you say, I'm at the wind or the sea or in the night. And then depending what you put down, players try to outguess you. And there's this chart here that tells you how many points you'll get depending on what cards are revealed. If everybody reveals night, well, you get -2 points or something, whatever that says over there. I mean, it's too expensive. It's 24 bucks Canadian for 15 cards. And especially since you just have this chart now, you can play it with regular cards and just use, you know, spades, hearts, and diamonds. But then again, it's always nice to have a game where I know I will be going first. Anyway, if you're interested in that one, it finishes Friday, July 29th at 8 a.m. Now, next up, we have a game called Roll or Die. And I like this as a concept. It's just a quick print and play. You know that set of polyhedral dice that you have, that set of one of everything? Well, now here's a roll and write where you actually get to use them instead of just having them sit on a shelf. And never touch the ones that you don't use for your specific role-playing game. And I like that. I like that it's taking a concept of things that people already have and trying to create a game out of it. Plus, you're going to face off against a number of dice-based villains in this dice fantasy world. You have the Dilatinous Cube, the Diamond, and of course, my ex-dice, Monstrous. But when it really comes down to it, it's just another way to play Yahtzee. But one that you can play solo because you have a target number to achieve, and where you have 33 rounds instead of 13 rounds. Also where you can substitute a reroll if you're happy with your numbers that you rolled in bumping up a dice by 1. And so there's a little bit more strategy to it, but it's, you know, it's Yahtzee. I think $5 US honestly feels a little steep when it's just Yahtzee. But maybe that'll interest you. It's a print and play, real simple. You get all the different monsters, whatever. Check it out. That finishes July 29th at 9:36 a.m. Now, next up, just another quick RPG tangent. We have Alchemistresses, where you basically get to play a season of a magical girl anime arc. So obviously I'm talking about it because that obviously speaks to my interests. Who wouldn't want to be Sailor Moon? That's the magical girl anime archetype that you're probably most familiar with. And I love seeing role-playing games that focus on diversity. This one says it has a heavy focus on like queerness, but also an even more heavy focus on feelings in a Wingdings font. There's that. And I have no idea if this one's going to be good or not, because again, I don't know that about any RPG, but I'm bringing it up because I thought it looked cool, thought it looked a bit more unique than the other stuff that I see just scrolling by. And I thought I'd bring it up in case anybody wanted to live their Sailor Moon fantasy, which, honestly, who wouldn't? And not as Tuxedo Mask. That guy gets way too much credit. Give me Sailor Mars or give me death. Anyway, it's 20 bucks Canadian to download the PDF of the game. That feels about standard. Might be a little bit more of an uptick. But again, I'm not the expert on how much these PDFs generally cost, so I'd assume it's average. Anyway, that's all I want to say about that one. Moving on. Next up, we have Burncycle, and the worst part about Burncycle is that stupid lowercase b in the title, which just annoys the heck out of me, and also that I inexplicably want everything new that's offered in this campaign, even though the base game is plenty. And I even have some expansions in there, and I haven't played it to its fullest extent, and yet I want it. Now, Burncycle, I was expecting to have to do a 5 reasons you shouldn't back Burncycle, so I put out a review last week. That was my #1 target of a review to get out from the stuff I picked up from Origins, because I knew that their campaign was upcoming and I wanted to be able to tell you what it's like. So I'm not going to tell you everything about it here. Basically, it's a stealth heist board game. That's it. If you're interested in Burncycle, go check that review out, which many people are calling the best Burncycle review they've ever seen. Eat it. Shut up and sit down. So go over there, check that out. They're offering some new content here. There's going to be another $15 pack of specialists. There's going to be another $30, these are all US of course, another $30 corporation, which adds in a few new neoprene mats, a bunch of different scenarios, and then another little pack for the stretch goals, which look to be just like captains or guards and additional stuff. And it's 45 bucks US for everything together. That's $60 Canadian. And then it's a $15 shipping to the US flat rate, or a $35 shipping to Canada. Although they did put out an update, if you are in the international and you're just getting the new content, they're trying to lower the shipping cost. So I think it's actually 20 bucks to get to Canada now, which is really nice. It used to be a flat rate to Canada that was lower, but then, you know, that one person in the Nunavut ruined it for everyone. They had to hire a plane to ship a game to basically the North Pole. And I thought Santa was the one who made gifts. Should have just ordered it from him. Now this is where always factoring in the shipping to your main price, I think really benefits Chip Theory, because their shipping prices are always low considering the heft of game that you get. And honestly, I will say, if you are interested in Burncycle, not to pump the FOMO train, but I truly believe this, I think this is the optimal time to get it. Or wait until you're driving to a convention that Chip Theory Games will be at and just pick it up there, because the prices aren't going to change from now to the convention. Well, they might go up just based on costs. I think that they were planning on increasing their prices a bit to account for, you know, rising costs of everything. But if they do go up, they're not going to go up more than the shipping, depending where you live. Anyway, I do think this is potentially the best time to get Burncycle, because I know they lost money on their first campaign, and I also know that this campaign hasn't broken $1 million. It hasn't. We'll see what the final tally is at the end of the campaign. I hope it does well, and I want it to do well for Chip Theory, because I honestly am very taken with them as a company, with my just limited interactions with them. They've swindled me over to their side through their good nature and smiles. No, I just like how they do business as a company. I like how upfront they are with people, and I like that they try to subsidize shipping, and I like that their margins are smaller than a lot of other companies. I don't know if this IP has done well enough to continue to be further invested in. Resources, time, production costs. I don't know. I have no idea, but my speculation is that if they lost money on their first one, they need to prove a profit in this one, and I don't know what their margins are here to make that profit. So I feel like the support for Burncycle isn't going to be as giant as something like Too Many Bones, right? So if you are interested in Burncycle, this feels like the right time to get it, or to prove that you are interested, if you are hoping that they continue to make things in this world. And whether or not you like it is besides the point. Well, it's not besides the point, like, you need to like it. But check out the review, and that should hopefully give you a sense of if it's something that you should be interested in. These are premium products, the price point is high, so it's a tough call. But I just wanted to bring that up because I think that is something legitimate to think about. And honestly, I do want all of this extra stuff. I really do. Do I want to spend $83 Canadian to get it to me? I think we know our answer. Would be nice to have. No, it wouldn't. You could just proxy, again, you could proxy the bots. You could use whatever bot you wanted and just use the different take a picture of the bot and just use the special abilities. Like, it's not going to impact your gameplay. If you want to do it on the cheap, and try it out and see if you want to have that bot like in your game for a long time. Anyway, I'm interested to see what the final tally will be on that one. That finishes July 29th at 7 p.m. Now, next up, we have a game called Muskoka, which is a Canadian game. Muskoka is a region of cottage country where only the rich people live. Or rather, we would have been looking at this campaign if they had included literally any shipping estimates whatsoever. They're shipping from within the country. It shouldn't be that much. But luckily, I looked at their shipping section before I spent my time on this game and saw that they do not have anything. They don't have their ship together, and that means that I'm not interested in covering it, even though it's a local and probably someone in Toronto. And I'd love to support it, but get your ship together and just give anybody a sense of what the game will actually cost. This is not the time to be coy with your shipping estimate. So sorry, Muskoka, no coverage for you. Moving on, we have a game called Aquamarine, which also doesn't have a shipping estimate, but it's a print and play, so you know what? I'll let that one slide. And it looks like a neat little game. You roll 2 dice and you pick one of the 2 numbers to create a object that has that many boxes inside of it. You're going to be diving down into the ocean and trying to look at the most fish. And so you're probably thinking, well, why wouldn't I always choose that higher number? Because then I'd get to go and dive down deeper. That's a valid point. But if you pick the higher number, you also have to cross off your oxygen level of the difference between the 2 numbers. So it's a push and pull of what numbers do you think are going to be rolled, how big is the difference, how much oxygen are you willing to spend, and trying to maximize the most points to see who can get the most underwater delicious fish. It doesn't matter that all of you managed to experience the wonders of the ocean, it matters that one of you did it the best. Yeah, Peter, you did not marvel at the beauties and wonders of this world effectively enough. What I do like about this is that there's one map, and then they say, oh, you'll get an additional map, and actually access to all future content that we produce for this game. So I assume they'll produce a few more maps down the line. And I'm sure it'd be pretty easy as a community to just, make up a random map. It's not going to be hard to generate these sorts of things, but I like that it gives you always future access to all content. So that's £4, $7 Canadian. I'm not going to do it, but if you like print and plays, check it out. That finishes Sunday, July 31st at 3 p.m. Now our next campaign answers the question, you know what I like most about campaigns at the end of July? Well, it's the fact that Christmas is just right around the corner. Santa and Krampus proved that last week with Dice Throne, or 2 weeks ago. And now we're seeing it again with a Mystery Dice Advent Calendar. And we had a whole conversation about Mystery Dice last time, but this one comes in an Advent Calendar that you get to open 1 box at a time, and so immediately makes it better. Or you can just order the dice on their own as separate packs. And they say, yeah, if you're not interested in fun, here, just have all of your dice at once, you little piggy boy. Just snort those sweet little truffles down your dice tower. But I think the Advent Calendar medium is the way to go, because who doesn't like getting tasty little treats every day, right? My dad had a whiskey Advent Calendar he loved. My mother had a wool Advent Calendar that she really enjoyed, or a knitting Advent Calendar. It gave her little projects each time. It's an awesome medium. And for $38 US or $48 Canadian, honestly, they got me with their marketing. And I will pay a premium just to be surprised. Although if you are interested in purchasing this just for yourself, skip reading the Just the Dice tier, because it breaks down everything that's going to be in your Advent Calendar. So if you want that surprise, well. And honestly, Muskoka could learn a thing or two from this. They say $5 a bag or $12 shipping for the Advent Calendar box. So really, you're looking at like $50 US for, 24 dice, really. Likely 24 dice. I mean, so the cost evaluation here is not great. It really isn't. $33 for 3 sets of dice and a little bit more, yeah, better. But the added box and the added shipping makes it a lot more. But honestly, I don't care. I don't, because I've seen A Christmas Carol in real life, the ghost of Chris's future, and it looks bleak, so maybe it'll look less bleak if I had just some dice to roll. Some sort of little friends to keep me company in my old age. And why do I like this more than Mystery Dice's campaign last week, even with their 84% weird stuff approval rating? Well, it's because I've fallen prey to a Christmas marketing scheme and I can't get up. Anyway, if you're interested in that, I figured I'd mention it. I thought I was just going to talk about it briefly, but apparently I don't do that anymore. So that finishes Sunday at 10 p.m. 2 more. Next up, we have a game called Trickdraw, which takes place in the land of Salundria. And I have been struggling for days trying to figure out if this is the best name ever created or the worst, and I still don't know. And I can't come up with an adequately funny enough Blankdria land, the famed land of Roland Rights. That was better than anything I came up with before starting to film. To fill in here. But there's a neat give and take with this game because you're going to play a card either face up or face down. If you play it face down, you get its points. Every card's basically worth 1 point on the back. But if you play it face up, you get its ability. And you're going to try to manipulate your cards and their abilities to flip things over or down, or you can flip other people's cards over and down. But a lot of cards are like, oh, if this is the only card up, this is worth 3 points. So there's interesting ways to flip your cards around and get to that 10-point bar, which will determine the winner. It seems like it might veer a little bit to the take that side of things. It feels like, it gives me a similar sensation of what I think Villainous kind of feels like to me, in that you have to watch out for everybody else trying to mess with your plan, but you can still contribute stuff to your own plan. It feels better than Villainous, honestly. I'm not a huge fan of Villainous. And it's $20 US with $12 shipping. So $41 Canadian total after conversion. And I'm not that interested in it, but it doesn't feel like a bad shout if you're thinking about it. The mechanics here intrigue me enough that I think this was one worth looking into a bit further. So if that does intrigue you as well, check it out. You have until next Monday, August 1st at 2:59 a.m. And our final game of the week is Moon, where you play as one of the leaders of the first settlements on the moon. Yeah, screw those idiots who are trying to build settlements on Mars. The moon is clearly closer, and therefore I'll get to see you more. But living on the moon for too long damages your health, naturally, because there's no water, there's nothing that can even grow or maintain even a hint of life, like my ex. No, just kidding. And so people have to return to Earth, and when they do, they can spread the word about your settlement, and of course we'll rate your settlement and talk about all the food you have there, the beef trees that you have grown, that's a real card, and what it's like to live on the moon, and why everyone else should go there and leave them the world. And really, that tells you nothing about the game, does it? That's just a whole bunch of flavor text that isn't even really represented in the actual gameplay because it's fairly abstract. It's by the same creators who brought you the game Villagers, Villagers Shifting Seasons, which was a Kickstarter I think last year. There's an expansion to the existing Villagers. Or my favorite Villagers expansion, Villagers, Please Leave the Premises, Chris, You're Not Involved in Our Pioneer Village Reenactment. Which feels like it might have been an exclusive expansion that only I was able to get my hands on, because I don't hear a lot of people talking about it. Anyway, Moon is played over 3 eras, or rounds, as we call them in Villagers, PLTCPYNIIOPVR. It's a fairly simple game. You're going to gather resources, use those resources to build and construct new stuff and settlements, and then score points with those cards. But the interesting part about the game is that it's a drafting game, which is, I'm going to pick a card and I'm going to pass my hand to everybody else and receive a new hand of cards and choose something different. But in each hand, there's going to be an expedition card. And these are basically the special powers that it gives your hand and you're choosing that round, which is cool. It's a cool concept until you realize, oh, that's not going to really shake things up. You're going to still just pick the best card, but it adds that additional layer of variability as you continue playing the game and get better and better in the game. And it kind of, I think, eliminates the problem of, oh yeah, this is the best card that always gets drafted first. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's only the best card if it's paired with this and this, right? So you're going to have these shifting seasons or shifting decision points based on what powers your hand currently has. And I think that's a really slick idea. And other than that, you're just chaining resources together and claiming tags that you need to build other better things onto your moon base. I know a lot of people who love Villagers. I have a friend who enjoys it and owns it as well. And I think it's going to give that similar simplicity and play time. It looks solid for what it is, it really does. But it is £30 or $47 Canadian for the base game, or £40, $62 Canadian for a deluxe version. Shipping to the US or Canada, it's an additional £12, that's $19 Canadian. So the retail version to me comes for like $66, $81 if, you know, I can't get enough wood and want the wooden tokens. And at that point, it's like, even if I purchase the Valkyrie expansion at a local store and Moon and pay the taxes in my country, probably gonna be cheaper or the same. And so that to me makes it not worth it. But if you are interested, check it out. It finishes August 2nd at 8 a.m. And we're done. That's it. That's it for the week. A little bit longer week, a little bit more medium things to get through. So every week I do a pick for me and a pick for you, the pick for me being the thing that I'm the most interested in, and the pick for you being the thing that I think has the most mass appeal, what I want you to purchase so that I can come over and then we can play it together, and I don't have to spend my money on it. And so this week, the pick for me is going to be Burncycle. It's going to be all the new stuff for Burncycle. I want it. I want it the most out of everything here, even though I know there's no good reason why I should pick it up ever. I still might look into some group buys and see if that can help with the lower shipping, if that can make the shipping negligible. Honestly, Burncycle is one of those things where if I'm at a convention or the next time I'm at a convention, I'll probably treat myself to the, the new bots or the expansion pack, right? Like, it's one of those things where you definitely don't need it. And I know I don't need it whatsoever. It's such a weird mentality to be in that I have everything I could want in that main box of Burncycle. There's so much content, and yet it's the variability of those bots, I think, that keeps drawing me back in. And I think having more and more choice just gets me excited. And I guess that speaks to Burncycle, that I'm still thinking about it, and then I still would want more things for it, and I would still want to play more things in it. Yeah, I don't know. It speaks to my enjoyment of the game, but also, if you watched the review, you probably already knew that. So yeah, the pick for me is definitely Burncycle. And then the pick for you, I'm struggling with. Moon does look really solid, but I just don't think it's a Kickstarter purchase. I don't believe that this is the optimal time to get it, especially since Villagers is like 25 bucks Canadian at my local store, right? Although Villagers was cheaper, and it was, a little while ago. But still, I just don't think $66 Canadian is what I want to spend on that sort of game, or what I can really recommend at that point. When I was going through this whole video, Trickdraw was interesting to me. Amun Re was interesting to me. Trickdraw, I think the mechanics of it feel really neat, but I don't, and it's got a pretty reasonable price point, so it's either that or no pick this week. I'll make it Trickdraw. I'll make Trickdraw the pick of the week for you, with a caveat that if it doesn't immediately appeal to you, don't go for it. You know what I mean? It's more, this is tough. No pick for you. No pick for you this week. Sorry, Trickdraw. You're so close. No, I think Trickdraw's a pick for you. I take it back. Do you know why? Because of the price point. I think the price point is accessible, and I think the shipping is also very reasonable. And sure, it's going to be a smaller card game, but I think that is, the better value pick of the week. And because it has interesting mechanics, that's why I feel okay saying it as the pick for you. But again, not super necessary. It's not something that I'm going to go out and get, but it did look cool. So I hope it's not bad. Anyway, that's it for the week. I'm all done. Goodbye. Thank you so much for being here. As always, let me know what you are excited about, what is upcoming, what you're backing, what you're not. If you need me to talk you out of anything, I'm happy to be just a real Japan in the train and just make your life miserable, as I try to do to everyone around me. You're welcome. Or let me siphon off your joy. Let me stick a straw of excitement right into your jugular and just fill up my I want to say slurp sack. I don't know where this is going. I think this room is overheated because there's no fan going and it's very small. So that's it. Goodbye. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Chris George. I don't have a catchphrase, and but I will see you in the next video if you provide me the honor of returning. I'll try to earn that trust. See you later.